Hello. So, you're thinking about the ministry. There's a sense of the call of God on your life. Yeah, I can relate to that. I remember for myself what that felt like. And my testimony was that I was singing at the time. And as a singer, I was speaking with someone and they had told me about their call, that they believed that singing was a call for them. And it hit me that God had called me into the ministry. I just knew that I was called into the ministry. And possibly you've had that sense for yourself. You've had this sense of God calling you into Christian ministry. Well, how does it start with TICCN? Well, we would assess each individual according to their background, their education, and their church experience. And accordingly then, put a plan in place for them to work through that we feel together would fit their particular situation. And for some people, let's say if they've had church experience, they've had leadership experience in the background, they've had theological education, it might be then a case of saying, well, okay, what area of ministry do you feel led into? Where is this sense of God's call? And you know, an exploration of the call of God is vital. Really, ministers in TICCN, very often, and we've got some spectacular testimonies from the ministers involved in TICCN, quite remarkable, and evidence for us that they were most definitely called of God. So when God calls someone, God equips them for the ministry. So if there is that sense of calling that you have, then you can be assured that God will somehow make a way for that ministry to manifest. He's equipping you for that He's called you to do. And a lot of the time we get asked, well, in terms of practical things that you need for the ministry, well, really it's a case of a place to meet very often if someone is called, let's say, into pastoral ministry. So I was speaking to someone recently and they have a group of people that meet together in someone's home. And that group is multiplying, it seems. And there's too many of them now for their home. And they feel called into TICCN. And I suggested, well, let's then look for a suitable building locally and let's start having perhaps Sunday evening services or midweek services. And there's a lot of accommodating church buildings out there, that we could use on the weekend, midweek, for group meetings and at relatively low cost. So when people join TICCN, we help with those practical details and we can go through their individual call and see what we can do to help facilitate that. But it really is a sense of we're looking for the Lord's direction, the Lord's real call for an individual's life. And when we find that, we can be confident that God makes a way and provides for that call to be fulfilled. And this really leads me on to one of the key focuses of TICCN. We've had a supernatural emphasis because we serve a supernatural God. We read a supernatural covenant in the New Covenant, same as the Old Covenant. But post-Enlightenment thinking has taken us away from the supernatural very often in the West, and it's led us to a more clinical approach. But we're bucking that trend, and we're saying, no, we ought to be living devotional lives, expecting the supernatural to be an essential part of our Christian walk. And clearly that's evidenced by the New Testament itself and the commission of the Lord who tells us these things. Let me share with you from Mark 16 here, And this is the charge that Jesus has given. He said to them, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He who is baptized and believes will be saved, but he who does not believe will be condemned. These signs will accompany those who believe. In my name they will cast out demons." Well, you know, we've seen that ministry in evidence many times. Had some remarkable testimonies. And I'm aware that the Anglican Church has seen that, and I'm aware that the Roman Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church have seen those things as well, and they have people who deal with that side of ministry. And then it goes on, "In my name they will cast out demons, they will speak with new tongues." Well, many of the people involved with TICCN speak in new tongues. That's supernatural language. And what a blessing that's been for us as a church. They will take up serpents. If they drink any deadly thing, it will not hurt them. They will lay hands on the sick and they will recover. You know, the Christian church for 2 millennia has had a healing ministry really at the core of its values. This is why around the world Christians set up hospitals. It was part of that healing ministry. It's part of our Christian tradition. But we've had many, many testimonies of people being healed through the laying on of hands. And it's a tremendous thing to not be self-dependent, because we can't rely on ourselves for that. We have to rely on God and His supernatural. And you know, I think a lot of people don't enter into this because they feel too self-aware and too self-reliant, or they're embarrassed. They feel foolish. They feel that perhaps people may make fun of them. They feel possibly as if they may be regarded as a simpleton or something for putting their faith in God. But you know, this is what the scriptures teach. And I believe it's an act of humility for a follower of Jesus to submit to the scriptures and to submit to that call of God for their lives. Because very often the call of God will take you out of your comfort zone and into a place where you will need to pray more, possibly, and certainly walk throughout the day with your spiritual ears attentive to the voice of the Lord, for His direction, very much dependent on Him. The call of God is the highest call there is for the human life. Forget about fame and fortune and those things. Nothing compares to the call of God. This is a great honor and a privilege. If you're aware that you have that call, I encourage you, with every fiber of your being, follow that call, and God will make a way for you. Every blessing.